Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon, Dumelang, goeiemiddag. You know, Comrade Kotso, it's so good to see a yellow overall, because what I see in Parliament are just red overalls. So please continue with the trend. It's more colorful, it's more ANC, and it certainly makes us extremely happy. Just 3 weeks ago, I was in Buffalo City in the Eastern Cape, and we were doing what we're doing now, is campaigning and mobilizing for the African National Congress. And we, amongst other things, visited 2 churches. The one was a charismatic church where there were certainly more than 3,000 people seated out there. And the pastor of this very colorful pastor, I might add, of this church, he has started his sermon with, I want to tell you what my wife told me this morning. And my wife had this particular view. And I realized immediately that the wife had a particular presence in the life of this pastor. But it was a wonderful delivery, and I'll tell you, and we went to the second church, and it was an Afrikaans-oriented, it was a historically colored church. And here the Reverend says, ek wil graag vir julle sê, wat my vrou vir my vanmôre gesê het. And I said, wow, the women have a presence even with the pastors and the reverends. So I would like to say to you, when I left home this afternoon, my wife told me I should make a public apology to the women in Mansfield Park as a result of a poor communication on my part, and Comrade Provincial Secretary will confirm that he had indicated to me that he would very much like to have Comrade Katie here to speak to the women out here. I had not conveyed the message appropriately or adequately, and she's livid. To say she's never let the ANC down, and now when the Provincial Secretary extends an invitation, I'd not conveyed to her clearly enough, and she wants to convey apology. The consequence of my failure was that she invited her grandchildren to come home, and the oldest is 9 and the youngest is 18 months old. So somebody has to be at home to take care of them. So please accept the apology. It's a public apology, and that is why the cameras are here, to ensure that it's recorded. And if at all she doubts the integrity of this particular apology, I'll say speak to Mohammed Desai. He would be able to play back the apology, and that's how I start my presentation. So I'm not any different from the pastor and the reverend that had spoken in Buffalo City. But it also means that we recognize the value of our women. And as we celebrate our democracy, and we've adopted a constitution that is 20 years old, in terms whereof we have committed ourselves as a nation to the creation of a non-racial, non-sexist, united democracy, which means that we had committed ourselves, and that was indeed our aspiration, that our women would have equal opportunities, equal rights, and certainly equal esteem in terms of the role that they should play in society at present and continue to play in the future. And the question then is, given that particular commitment, both in the Constitution and in the Freedom Charter, and quite interestingly in 1956, 60 years ago, it is our women who showed their unity and of purpose in marching to the union buildings and saying that we refuse to carry a dompas. It is an indignity. We refuse to accept a violation of our rights. It's these women that did so. But already at that time, the African National Congress was committed to a representative society. We had Lillian Ngoyi, we had Helen Joseph, we had Amina Rahim, we had Sophie de Bruyn. Representatives of the different racial groups within the country to say that the task for the creation of a new society is not the task of only one community, notwithstanding the fact that the African community was a majority community. And where are we today? And we should reflect on that. The journey that we have in our democracy is a very young and nascent democracy, just 21 years, 22 years old. And Comrade Wendy had indicated yesterday in her presentation that if we take away the government of national unity, we're certainly a democracy of the African National Congress for only 17 years. But in our municipalities, in our provincial legislatures, in parliament, women have parity and of participation. Our speaker is a woman. My Minister of Basic Education is a woman. The Minister of Science and Technology, Naledi Pandor, is a woman and a Muslim. So women are not only participating, but indeed are participating with competence and capability, something that was denied to them in the past. And yet we forget it. And I'm so heartened by the presence of our women here. I'm less heartened by the presence of our youth, and there are some whom I acknowledge. I've seen the faces yesterday, and I see them today again, and I'm extremely excited. Thank you very much for making yourselves available. But it means that we tend to forget the value of the struggle itself. This week, we celebrate an important event. The United Nations had dedicated, for the first time in its history, a particular day to a particular person. It never has done so before. There is no other day other than Nelson Mandela Day. It did so because the icon of our struggle had the qualities and attributes of a person who was compassionate, was committed to social justice, was committed to peace. I wear this t-shirt today. And he says, in this t-shirt, and it's written out here at the bottom, that freedom does not mean merely taking off the chains. It means enhancing and respecting the freedom of others. You cannot say you are free because you've removed the shackles. You can only say you are free once you have alleviated the suffering and the pain of others, and you've respected the freedom of others. The freedom in terms of their religious rights, the freedom in terms of the cultural and the linguistic rights. And as we celebrate 20 years of our Constitution, we tend to take for granted these incredible liberties that have been accorded to us. And given the reality that the intention, and certainly this is not confined to the Muslim community, one should reflect on the life of Nelson Mandela and say, where was Nelson Mandela and what was his relationship? And I'm not even going to talk about the Palestinian issue at this point in time with the Muslim community. Who are the people that were incarcerated with him? In the first treason trial? In the second treason trial? There were many Muslims. There were many activists. Have we forgotten that Ahmed Kathrada spent the better part of his adult life with Nelson Mandela? Have we forgotten that Ahmed Kathrada, who was advised by his lawyers to plead not guilty because he would certainly be acquitted, said that I will not plead any different from my comrades. The solidarity of our struggle is one, and certainly I refuse to do so. That was the principle. And someone had once said that this world does not so much need men of great intellect. It needs men of noble character in whom ability is controlled by steadfast principles. It is these principles that inform the life, the attitudes, and the values of Ahmed Kathrada, Isu Chiba, Mac Maharaj, Ibrahim, all of whom were incarcerated with Nelson Mandela, with Walter Sisulu, with Govan Mbeki. They were brothers in the struggle, and when they were released and when they were free, they continued to be brothers. That solidarity had remained, was intact for the entire duration of their friendship, their living life. So when Walter Sisulu died, Ahmed Kathrada cried. When Nelson Mandela died, he cried even more because he had lost both a brother and a father. That was a bond of friendship, but that was the common purpose of the struggle. Now I want us to reflect on that reality, because that struggle of Kathrada and Isu Chiba and Mac Maharaj and Ibrahim and a host, there are so many comrades who are Indian and who are Muslim, who had committed themselves to the struggle, who were incarcerated. I'm not even talking about those who are members of the MK. I'm not even talking about those who are in exile. But for some reason, we tend to forget that reality, that our freedom was born of a collective struggle. And that is why when Nelson Mandela was released, as Comrade Mohammed Desai says, and was told, in fact instructed, not to invite Cuba, not to invite Palestine, he refused. Because the past informs the present. And for this reason, as I am standing out here addressing you, I am so pleased that I have not severed my relationships from the past. I see the MEC for tourism, and she will tell you we know each other for more than 20 years. I see Comrade Saliva, and he will tell you that we know each other for more than 22 years. I see Comrade Tabo, he will tell you that we know each other for more than 20 years. That friendship, that bond, even though we might not meet every week, is so strong. And I think to an extent, their presence here today, notwithstanding the fact that we have a very, very tight election schedule, is an affirmation of that bond of friendship and camaraderie between us. Comrade Khotso has been on a long journey with me over the years. So could I say about Comrade Supra, the Premier and the Chairperson of the organization. I feel heartened, I feel flattered, I feel important, I feel privileged when the Provincial Secretary elects to join the deployee in the province when he visits Tlokwe. It means that there is value in what we do. Comrade Vilma, I'm not forgetting you at all. Comrade Wendy. And it's important. She's now the MEC for finance. It's FEE now, finance, enterprise, and economics. You don't pay her, she pays us. But be that as it may, our memories tend to be so short because if we reflect on the past, we will discover that in the first administration of this government, the first MEC for finance was Martin Kaskas, who interestingly comes from the very same community that she comes from. And he too was colored. Am I right? Same branch, same race, same comrade, but what united them was the fact that they were committed cadres of the African National Congress. You in Tlokwe, you had your Satish Rupa, first MEC for security, and then at a later stage, executive member of your council. Would I be correct? An affirmation, a mayor, yes, executive mayor of the council. Again, an affirmation of the contribution, the commitment of cadres. Certainly, in my opinion, neither Comrade Wendy, nor Comrade Martin Kaskas, nor Comrade Satish Rupa were appointed to that position on the basis of the fact that they were either Indian or colored. They were appointed to that position on the basis of their commitment, their competency, their ability, and their passion for the African National Congress. And I was hoping that there were more youth here, because my message to them was, you have the generation of Ahmad Kathrada, who is now more than 85 years old, coming to pass. And yet, at the age of 85, Ahmad Kathrada, and almost as old, if not slightly older, Isu Chiba, just a few days ago, were in Orange Farm, mobilizing people on behalf of the African National Congress. At that age, that is their commitment to the African National Congress. They have no aspirations. They don't want to become ministers, deputy ministers. They have served their country with their lives. And yet, they have not forgotten their roots and the roots of the struggle. What is the responsibility then on our current generation? Is to do as much, or try to do as much, as they would like us to do, because we can't do as much as they have done. But more than that, I think we have a particular responsibility as adults, as mothers, as fathers, to ensure that a conversation takes place in our homes about the destiny and the future of this country, and the role of our youth in shaping that destiny. Because the generation of Enver Surty and Ismail Wadi and Fatima Chauhan and Ibrahim is coming to an end. I'm old, I don't look as young as my comrades out here. And certainly the time would be coming. And we're going to say, from within our communities, who is going to emerge, who would serve this organization that we are so proud of, with commitment. I raise this because we tend to be complacent, because under the African National Congress, you can come to an ANC meeting chaired by the provincial secretary and the current executive mayor and the candidate attorney, the leadership of the PEC that is present out here, and you begin your meeting with a qiraat, a recitation of the Holy Quran. Nobody is surprised, nobody is astounded, but every cadre respects that. But more than that, the recitation of the Quran is followed by a prayer from a pastor. And it is only in this country here where a pastor, a rabbi, a pandit and an imam can pray together for the common future of our country. That makes us unique and distinctive. Do we want to lose that? Because if we forget about that cohesive element, that thing that bonds us, that thing that Kathrada and Isu Chiba and Nelson Mandela and Thabo Mbeki and O.R. Tambo, the longest serving president of the African National Congress, had worked for so tirelessly, then we're betraying all those who have laid down their lives, who have made these incredible sacrifices, and we're saying to them that your political struggle, your moral struggle was of no consequence and value to us. But what are the realities that inform our lives? Our children can go to any institution of learning that they wish to. When we were at university, or when we could go to university, we were confined to the University of Durban, Westville. If we were Indian, if we were African, it was the University of the North or the University of Fort Hare. And if you were white, you had this range of universities. You had your Rao, you had your Wits University, you had the University of Cape Town, University of Natal. And if you were colored, and University of Potch. Thank you very much, comrade. Thank you very, very much. And look, it still needs a lot in terms of transformation. If you look at the composition and the demographics of your lecturing, your staff at the campus here in what was then called Potch, and compare it to what is in Mohideen, you will see that transformation is something that we have to still continue to work for. We haven't won the battle. Now, that correction has somehow disturbed my train of thought. Yes, no, I know where I was. It's very interesting, and I share this with you from a very private and personal perspective. It so happens that the current Minister of Finance is Pravin Gordhan. And it so happened that he was at university at the time that I was at university. And we had taken a decision in 1972, at the time when a young, revolutionary, radical leader named Onkgopotsi Tiro was expelled from Turflip University. We started a solidarity boycott at the University of Durban, Westville, in solidarity of Tiro and in recognition of the struggle for equality and democracy. That resulted in a resolution that we had taken. And the resolution was that we would not utilize any of the amenities of that institution, notwithstanding the fact that it was new and it was state-of-the-art, that we would not have an SRC, and that we would not accept a degree that was conferred on us, because that would give credence and legitimacy to that institution. Pravin Gordhan graduated. He did not attend the graduation ceremony. Enver Surty graduated. He did not attend the graduation ceremony. Zak Yaqub, the constitutional judge, graduated. He did not attend the graduation ceremony. And we had no SRC. And we said, this is a tribal institution that seems that is aimed at isolating us rather than uniting us. So for my entire student life, notwithstanding my love for cricket, and those of you who are in Tlokwe, in Manzil Park will know, Ismail Akuji will tell you, I played here. I played cricket and I loved cricket. And I played soccer and I loved soccer. Can you imagine being in an institution where you have all these beautiful amenities available to you, and you say, my political principle will not allow me to do that? But that consciousness is what shaped me and many of our cadres in doing what we're doing. It is that consciousness that drew us to the African National Congress. It is that consciousness that makes us serve with pride. And what you see here today is not a product of the struggle of Enver Surty. It's a product of the creation of Enver Surty through the auspices of the African National Congress. And I want you to understand that. because people do not understand the value of this organization that is so powerful, that is so non-racial, that is so non-sexist. I said that yesterday, that I was so privileged in that I was able to be a negotiator on behalf of this powerful organization for the Constitution, for the Bill of Rights in particular. I didn't realize that I would have to carry the burden of providing education to all, basic education to all, but at that time, certainly I felt it was my duty, and I continue to feel that way. To be appointed as a chief whip, Comrade Khotso will remember, he was a member of parliament, and he will tell you about the authority and the power of a chief whip in an institution. And I think our chief whip is here from the legislature, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not too sure. And during that entire period, and I was a minister of basic education, minister of education, minister of justice, whatever the case might be, at no single time was my authority undermined, eroded, or questioned on the basis of the fact that I was Indian. That only occurs in the African National Congress. And I think we take that particular attitude, value, and disposition for granted. Because if we do, if we take it for granted, if we are complacent, then we will forget about the struggle for a national democratic revolution was a commitment to improve the quality of the lives of blacks in general and Africans in particular. And blacks in general is Africans, Indians, and coloreds. It's quite amazing that I could be in the executive of the African National Congress, and when it's time for prayer, I don't even have to ask my president for permission to go for prayers. I merely get up, go and perform my prayers and return, and nobody asks a question. It happens there in Cape Town, it happens in the Northwest, and comrades will know, out here as well. Even the NEC, the highest organization, the highest structure of the African National Congress, when it comes to prayer time, you are allowed to go out. That is the kind of protection, the kind of freedom that Nelson Mandela speaks about, to say how do we respect and enhance the freedom of others. And we take that particular gift for granted. Now hearing the Adhan brings to mind the views of this group in Pretoria when a mosque was going to be established. And I said the Azan would disturb them, a mosque would disturb the existing community, it would bring in a new faith into the community. And who was the spokesperson for the Muslim community? It was the executive mayor of Tshwane, a member of the African National Congress, a member of the PEC of the African National Congress, who said, we have absolutely no need to apologize. We certainly support the Muslim community in terms of enforcing their rights. Would you enjoy those same rights and privileges, I ask, if another organization was in power? You know, we can feign loyalty to a struggle. But if we are sincere, we will do what I do. Yes, Nelson Mandela, yes, the ANC. I will walk with this with pride anywhere, at any place. But have you seen a member of the DA join a struggle, a march in solidarity of the Palestinians wearing a shirt of the DA? All of us, comrades, we've all walked with the Palestinians. Have you ever, on any single occasion, seen the member of the DA? Perhaps you would have seen an EFF member, but have you ever seen a DA member wearing the T-shirt of a DA saying, I walk in solidarity with the people of South Africa, in solidarity with the people of Palestine to support this struggle? It doesn't happen. And yet, I don't know why. They're not in governance. They do not control the fiscus. They cannot determine your future. But some of our people would vote for the DA. And on a Monday, and a Tuesday, Farouk Damba receives a call, and my water, my lights, my this. But he's not the member of the DA. Ask Umpo Kuno in Rustenburg, he'll tell you. If the lights go off, he's an executive mayor. But Comrade Umpo, please help us. And some of those people had indeed voted for the DA. Comrade Saliva, you know, and I know. Comrade Katie is not even in council. She continues to receive calls, but she continues to serve and respond. She doesn't say, I'm too busy, so sorry, I'm no longer a member of the district council, I'm no longer a speaker. She still goes to the community, even those who might have voted for somebody else. Now, if you have that kind of perseverance, you have that kind of tolerance, you have that kind of understanding, why is it that we are not able to reflect on the choices that we make? And why is it that we do not wish to do more than we should? It means if Dad is going to vote, does he take the task of ensuring that his wife and his daughter and his son accompanies him so that they could vote? Because when you vote for the ANC, you do not only vote for your ward candidate. You vote for the municipality. You vote for the district. The proportional representation determines the strength of the African National Congress in your municipality. I have many weaknesses. So has Comrade Khotso. But I can assure you that none of us will betray the cause of the African National Congress. And you will never have a situation where Comrade Khotso, and I can say that unconditionally and unequivocally, would basically say, I have no time for this minority community. I serve only this particular community. Our provincial secretary lives amongst the community, interacts with the community. He's sensitized. He told me where the halal butchery is when I was here the last time. He says, not only will I show you where it is, I will take you to the butchery. Am I right, Comrade Dakota? Now, that is the level of integration that you get from the the leadership of the African National Congress. And why is it that we don't do more? You know, it might happen once. It might happen a second time. But surely, when the ANC analyzes its trends, it does so on the basis of polling stations, voting stations, and it says what the trend is. And it knows what the demographics is. So Comrade Dakota will tell you in Manzil Park, he's certainly not in the majority. And Comrade Wendy will tell you in Alabama, I am certainly not, as an Indian, in the majority. We know that as a reality. And we are not so foolish as ANC to know what the trends of voting are in a particular voting station. And it's even more easier in a local government election than in a provincial or a national government election where you have that latitude and freedom to vote almost in any voting station. What reflection, how does it serve the community when they discover that either too few have voted or too few have supported the African National Congress, the party that is responsible for the liberation, the party that protects its rights? And it's a real, serious, honest question that we have to ask ourselves. I remember, and I share this with you, and Comrade Saliva, you were there in Rustenburg at the time. You were still a young man. You continue to be young. I've aged over the years. I forget. There was a criminal that basically went to the town of Rustenburg. Umpo was still a member of the youth league, you know, with Comrade Dakota and everybody else. And Comrade Khotso. You guys, you remember how bold and brave you guys were at the time. You continue to be, I imagine. And he says, look, we're going to, if you don't close your shop today, we're going to burn your shop. It was on a Friday. Within 30 minutes, the entire business section of Rustenburg, not Zineval, Rustenburg was closed. Who received the first call? Comrade Enver. Comrade Enver, Uncle Enver. Please help us. We've got problems. And it was not even an ANC person who made the threat. And I had to assure the community, but this cannot be, it is not the ANC, it's not the culture. And the entire leadership of the ANC convened in short notice and gave them the assurance to say, my God, we would never, ever, ever condone or allow something like that to happen. That was the spirit of the ANC and the assurance he had given. But you call a meeting, you have your executive mayor, you have your provincial secretary, you have your MEC for finance, you have your MEC for tourism, you have members of the legislature, members of the PEC. What a wonderful turnout. It says so much about our commitment to our democracy and our pride and respect for the ANC. We must search our souls. We must. And it means that you've got to just do so much more. Comrade Dakota tells me, he doesn't tell me, instructs me, you better make sure Comrade Katie comes. Not because she's my wife, because he knows that I used to meet her more often in meetings than meeting at home when she served in the organization. And that is the truth. It takes that kind of contribution. And I really believe that we have to have the serious conversation with our youth. My colleague seated right next to me, Comrade Wilma, has asked me about Arabic and its relationship to Islam. And I'm able to share just the call, the adhan, and to tell her it is in Arabic and what its meaning is, and how Arabic is located in the context of Islam. Now imagine an ANC and imagine a government without the presence of a Muslim representative. Who is going to share those thoughts and those views? Who is going to speak about the issues of Palestine? And this ANC, this very ANC, when it appointed a minister and a deputy minister of basic education in the third term, had a Muslim as a minister and a Muslim as a deputy minister. Do you think it would happen in any other country under any other organization? This organization has at its first Minister of Justice a Muslim. And not very long ago, there was another Muslim appointed as his Minister of Justice. Would it happen in any other country, under any other organization? And yet we ask. Yet we are complacent. And this is the appeal that we make, to say, please, you have this opportunity on the 3rd of May. There are not too many of you. But if you are indeed soldiers of the struggle, you will take the responsibility of ensuring that you do mobilize the community. You appeal to their conscience. Because if we do not awaken from our slumber, we might be very, very disappointed about what the future holds for us. Because the future of the ANC lies not only in their hands, it lies in our hands. And the destruction of the ANC lies not only in their hands, but it lies in our collective hands. And the ANC and the Indian community and the Muslim community, given its particular attachment to the ANC in the days of the struggle, has a particular responsibility to be the vanguard of this movement. I was called to do two other things, and I'll do that very briefly, given the time constraints. The first was to speak about Palestine, but I had the benefit of having Mohammed, who spoke so eloquently about it. But I will share you with one insight, that when they started the erection of the... Oh, yeah. You see, I'm being guided by the youth again. And I know why he's done so. So that was the second thing that I was going to speak about our manifesto. The first was about Palestine and the international solidarity. When we were in the National Council of Provinces and they were busy going to erect the Palestinian Wall, it was the ANC that spoke up against it. It was the ANC as members of that particular house, in both the houses, and as the executive. When they bombed and they wanted to bomb Iraq, we had a special debate initiated by the African National Congress to condemn the anticipated action of the Americans and the British in bombing Iraq. We became the voices of the people who were oppressed. We became the voices of those in Palestine, those in Iraq and other places. We did not say they are not African. We said that they are comrades. That is critical. Because the commitment of Nelson Mandela, of Walter Sisulu, of O.R. Tambo was a commitment, and that is enshrined in the Freedom Charter, to the creation of peace and social justice in the world. And interestingly, comrade, I can call you comrade today, I will call you Mr. Mutara tomorrow, in my official capacity. But interestingly enough, the Freedom Charter says that the aim of education is to foster peace and promote brotherhood amongst our people. That is the aim of education. And when we reflect on what's happening in the world today, we tend to forget. Now, I've mentioned these things, but what I did not mention, and what Muhammad has indeed been kind enough to draw my attention to, is the last aspect. The last aspect, which I could have spoken more about, but I did not speak more about, because I thought it was almost understood. Firstly, we can celebrate the fact that almost above 95% of our people in our country have piped water. This we've achieved in a small window of time, 20 years, not having had the opportunity of governing at any time before. Many, if not most of us, or all of us in the ANC have not even seen the doors of parliament prior to that, or a provincial legislature. Having entered an office where there's not even a book, just a desk and a chair, not even a computer. That was our entry into politics. So we had to learn the art of governance, the art of legislation, and be able to deliver at the same time. And we've been able to do that. That we've been able to provide electricity to more than 89% of the population of this country, where in 1994, less than 32% of the people had electricity. That we are able to feed every single day more than 10 million children on each school day with a nutritious meal, free of charge. That we are able to distribute 56 million books to enhance literacy and numeracy to all our children from grade R to grade 6. And those of you who have children in public schools will know that the quality of the books is incredible. Quite interestingly, the school that hosted us yesterday was an independent school, and they said, please don't tell anybody, but these books are so good. And which government donated it? It donated to the school on the basis of their collaboration with the poorer schools and the partnerships and the support that they extended to those schools. But these are real things that we built in the past 30 months alone, a state-of-the-art school every single week. Every single week. Now that's huge strides that we're making, that we've housed more than 12.5 million people, providing free housing to them in these 20 years. 3.75 million housing opportunities. That thousands upon thousands of kilometers of our roads are tarred. And that I can vouch for the fact that the Northwest, which had the worst record in terms of infrastructure of its roads, has improved significantly and qualitatively the roads between Rustenburg and Tlokwe. Go from here to Ventersdorp and from Ventersdorp to Rustenburg and you will see the difference. And it wasn't like that. And we've reflected on it and we've been able to change it. And the same would apply to our municipalities. That they might not be functioning optimally, but they must do better. We've got to hold them accountable. So we've got to fight against corruption. We've got to fight against unemployment. We've got to fight against poor service delivery within our municipalities. That doesn't change simply because we won an election. That becomes more important because we have a particular responsibility and accountability to our constituency. And I think that is sometimes forgotten. That we are not serving the interests of a small group of people, but the broader community that have been historically deprived for so long. So if indeed you are a Muslim and you understand the concept of zakah, which means that you have to all the time, in terms of your income, reflect on your responsibility to give to the poor, the indigent, and the needy, you will understand why 15 million people are the recipients of grants by this African national-led government. You will understand why 8 out of 10 children go to schools. There are no-fee schools. And those of you who send your children to private schools understand the pressure of doing so. Because parents basically send the children to these schools. They spend about 80,000 rands a month per child. A year per child. 160,000, they probably have 40,000 rands to live off, and they put so much of psychological pressure on the child that the child is forced to basically perform at a level being as unhappy a soul as he or she can be. And the public schools, which were 100 rands or 200 rands a year, become empty. I've seen that. I've witnessed it. And I'm not speaking as a hypocrite. I have 3 daughters. They all attended public schools. They are my witnesses over there. They went to university without tuition. They finished quite comfortably. They are equal to, if not better, because they have had the ability of social interaction. This ANC, and I tell the people mustn't forget, opens the doors of learning And those of you who are from Zinia or Fadila will know. She will tell you, Fadila is there. We did not allow our children to use the library in Rustenburg because it was close to African children. We did not allow Fadila and her friends to swimming in the swimming pool because coloreds and Africans were prevented from doing so before 1990. That we had African children registered in Zinyaville Secondary School with Indian names in order to integrate our schools. So what we've achieved now is not an accident. It's a purpose. That was our vision. So where else can I find a political home other than the African National Congress? And I say to you, please think about it. It's a gift from God. The opportunity that we have, I'm not saying the organization is God's chosen organization. I'm saying the opportunity that we have is a gift from God. Because it speaks to precisely what the Quran says. O mankind, I've created you in different nations and tribes so that you may know each other and not despise each other. What does the ANC say? What does the ANC say? We are committed to non-racialism. What does the ANC say in its strategy and tactics document? We must overcome the demon of tribalism and nationalism. How different is our religion, that is 1400 years old, from the ANC that is just more than 100 years old? You know, we are involved in a campaign, and Mr. Mutara will tell you, which is called the Read to Lead campaign. The Read to Lead campaign, because of the importance of literacy and numeracy in terms of quality education. But what was the first word of the revelation in the Holy Quran? Iqra bismi rabbika allazi khalaq, khalaqal insana min alaq. Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram allazi allama bil qalam, allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. In other words, God says that read in the name of your Lord, who has created you out of congealed clot of blood, and through his magnanimity has been able to teach man to use the pen. So the gift of writing and reading comes from God. But that was a message of Islam more than 1400 years ago. And who is reinforcing that message? Is the African National Congress. So this compatibility, this consistency with what I believe in as a Muslim, and what my organization says I should believe in as an organization that I would never abandon, makes me feel extremely comfortable and proud to be both a Muslim and a comrade of the ANC and a citizen of South Africa and a citizen of Africa. I say, Kia lebocha, thank you very much, shukran, jazakumullahu khairan.